After their final battle, the Great Hero and the Demon King lost all their powers. Time passed, and Blade enrolled at Rosewood Academy with one goal in mind: to make friends and live a normal life. She becomes friends with Ernest, the top student, as he helps her break a curse. He also befriends Sophie, a mock version of himself created to be a replacement for the Great Hero. Blade later adopts a dragon who transforms into a little girl. He names her Ku. Now the students at Rosewood Academy must fight the dragon Ku to earn her respect and friendship. The battlefield ignites with tension as the students anxiously evade the dragon's fiery breath. In a swift move, Ku's tail takes out another group, asserting her dominance. However, her triumph is short-lived as Ernest retaliates with a powerful fire attack. Rallying their spirits, the students remind everyone of their well-practiced formations, infusing them with renewed determination. The students come together, forming a shield wall that even legendary Uhtred would admire. Yet their defense falters when the dragon's tail strikes, revealing Ku's vulnerability to the students' clever plan of unleashing explosive arrows. Excitement fills the air as Blade witnesses their strategy unfold flawlessly, just as they had practiced countless times before. During the battle, the principal's laughter echoes, and Ernest swiftly commands long-range attacks. The students fall back, unleashing a barrage of well-aimed shots upon the dragon. The principal's sharp-eyed assistant notes their focus on Ku's blind spot, a testament to their unity and tactical competence. As the battle progresses, a challenge arises. Ordinary attacks are rendered futile against the dragon's scaly armor. The students' melee attempts are effortlessly thwarted, urging them to seek an alternate strategy. Ku lets out another cry of confidence. On the other hand, the students are frantic, as some try to tend to the injured, and the rest continue to get attacked as the dragon unleashes a flurry of stomps and fire breaths. Despite the chaos, Blade is observed waiting for something, but the principal predicts the battle will end before his plan takes effect. An unexpected opportunity arises when Sophie lands a very powerful punch on the dragon's face, rocking it, which gives Ernest the chance to charge up her sword and unleash a high-level fire attack. The students cheer as they secure their first exchange since the battle began. Though they have managed to inflict some damage, Gilgamesh remains skeptical of Blade's plan, while the hero himself stays confident and determined. Ku's relentless attacks leave her less aware of her surroundings, setting her up for Leonard's trap that he had been working on since the battle began. Now vulnerable, the dragon falls into the students' plan, and they prepare for a decisive charge to finish her off. However, when Ernest attempts another attack, her sword begins to complain about overuse. Leonard then attempts to assault Ku with his drill weapon, yet it proves ineffective against the dragon's scale. Ku, fed up, tries to escape using her wings, but Ernest knocks her down, and Sophie follows up with the gravity manipulation punch. At this point, the students are determined to land the final blow, but they are all exhausted. With unwavering determination, Ernest gathers the last of her strength, and the students rally together, imbuing her attack with their fighting spirit, increasing its potency. The tremendous release of power strikes Ku, causing a massive explosion visible from outside the training ground. The attack forces her back into her human form, signifying her defeat. As the students support each other, Ernest remains vigilant, ready to fend off any surprise attacks. Blade approaches Ku, patting her on the head. Tears begin to gather in the corner of her eyes as she admits defeat, fearing Blade's disappointment and the possibility of abandonment due to her perceived weakness. However, Blade reassures her, declaring that he would never do such a thing. He corrects her, stating that humans are just stronger on this occasion. He asks her to admit her loss, which she does. In a heartwarming moment, she asks everyone to be her friend, and they all unanimously agree, embracing her as a newfound ally. Some time passes after the intense battle, and the king is pleased to witness the growth of his students as they harness their fighting spirit and spiritual energies. To further challenge them, the king arranged a special training method, using a virtual reality device powered by a once-lost branch of magic called science. He eagerly awaits its completion. Meanwhile, the students enjoy lunch together. Ku is still open to her new friends, but one of the girls is overeager, attempting to feed her. Ku is initially hesitant, but gives in, agreeing only this once. She tastes the food and loves it, prompting the girls to shower her with affection, finding her reaction adorable. Blade notices something different about Ernest, and it becomes obvious when she shows everyone. They become tense because they know Blade lacks any social skills. They try to hint to him to change course, but he remains oblivious to the signs. Sophie calls him despicable, and the other girls inform Ernest that she has not changed. Blade objects to their comments and bluntly tells Ernest that she has put on some weight, causing her to get upset and call him a jerk before storming off. The others inform Blade that he was in the wrong, but he doesn't understand his mistake. One of the girls remarks that she wouldn't be surprised if Blade and Sophie's friendship ends due to this. 3 days pass, and Blade feels depressed because Ernest hasn't come out of her room during that time. He now understands what it means to be through with someone. The girls explain that it means they can't be friends anymore. Panicking, Blade doesn't want to lose his friendship with Ernest. He wants to apologize, but the girls want to make sure he understands what he's apologizing for before he makes things worse. They decide to accompany him to her room to help. They inform Ernest that Blade has come to apologize, but she doesn't respond. One of the girls uses her lock-picking skills to open the door, revealing a pitch-black room. They find Ernest hunched over, making a sound, but Ku realizes that she's not crying and joins her as they playfully fight over Treat. After turning on the lights, the others are shocked to find that Ernest has become significantly bigger due to continuous munching while in her room. She explains that she started feeling hungry all the time after their battle with Ku and became addicted to the delicious food. Blade asks if they are still friends, and Ernest confirms they are, but she didn't want him to see her in this state. The girls decide to intervene, as they know it won't end well for her. The girls try to get Blade to say something nice to Ernest to start the process, but his attempt isn't helpful. Leonard gets knocked out after making a rude comment about her weight. Blade redeems himself by assuring Ernest that everyone will help her through this overeating phase. They begin by having her join them for a run and some exercises, but she struggles. During lunch, she's given a small portion, leading her to question why they are treating her this way. They explain it's to reduce her calorie intake. They try making her sweat off some fat in the sauna, but she ends up getting heavier when she destroys the scale. The following day, Ernest decides to try something drastic to increase her metabolic rate. She enlists Blade's help and prepares a testing ground with a powerful magic barrier for safety. Ernest believes she'll lose weight if her idea works. She calls for her sword to consume her flesh to use its power. The fire engulfs her, and she transforms into a demon-like form with consciousness intact. The demon Asmodeus manifests and is astonished, as no one has attained this form before. Asmodeus thinks she's succumbed to the idea of destroying everything, but Ernest clarifies she is using the form for her diet. It burns an enormous amount of energy, requiring 1 million calories per hour to maintain. This suits her because she doesn't want to jog off the weight. With this form, she can burn fat rapidly. However, all her calories get depleted, causing her to collapse. Hunger takes over, and she briefly loses control, seeing her friends as potential meals. Blade neutralizes her with a high-level move, and she returns to normal, but loses consciousness, commended by Blade for her effort. Not long after, they discover Ernest binge eating again, regaining the weight she had previously lost. She promises them that she will transform into the flame demon once more to shed the excess weight. However, everyone is not impressed with her relapse, expressing their disappointment. Later, Blade goes to the nursery for a checkup with the doctor. The doctor informs him that he's slowly recovering, about 30%. Blade asks if he can use his hero powers again, but the doctor warns him that using 30% of his full power could be fatal. After leaving the office, Blade wanders around the school and is called by Claire, who wants to introduce him to her friend, Maria. Blade interrupts the introduction because he remembers Maria's struggles during magic training. He mentions that Maria was clumsy and often misdirected her magic spells, but he does so without being mean or judgmental. Maria admits her clumsiness, but Claire mentions that Maria has a favor to ask Blade. Maria confesses that she's not human and wants Blade to kill her if she ever loses control. Blade confirms that he already knew Maria is a night demon. Maria reveals her pointy ears and explains there's a powerful magical being inside her that she can't fully control, as evidenced by her accidentally breaking her cup of British leaf water. Blade tries to reassure her, but she shares that her loss of control started after a battle against someone named Coop. Since Maria's parents are gone, Maria has no place to go if she gets expelled from the academy. Claire explains they both came from the same school, and Maria just wants to find a place where she belongs by dealing with her powers. Blade agrees to help Maria with her inner struggle. Sophie and Ku join the group, and together they plan to create an orphan school club. Their plan is to go to the training ground, set up a barrier, and encourage Maria to release her power so she can learn to control it. Maria is hesitant, but Blade reminds her that if Ernest could do it, she can too. With encouragement from Ernest, she puts her faith in Blade. She drops one of her bracelets, reducing her power by half, and they notice 3 more bracelets and a necklace that further reduce her power by 10. Suddenly, Maria's power is unleashed, and she transforms into what appears to be a succubus, but it turns out to be the real Demon Lord. The Demon Lord asserts her dominance, commanding everyone to kneel before her. Blade urges Maria to believe in them. The Demon Lord is celebrating her rebirth and declares her intent to control the world. Sophie questions if the being before them is the Demon Lord truly, but Blade disagrees. However, the crest on her head suggests otherwise. Ernest tries to attack Maria in her transformed state with his demon sword, but the real Demon Lord easily deals with him. Leonard also meets a similar fate when he steps forward. Sophie jumps on the Demon Lord's back and uses Ultima Gravity to pull her down, while Ku, in his dragon form, casts a fire spell. Despite their efforts, Sophie exhausts all her magic power and collapses. Ku attacks, but the Demon Lord effortlessly turns it into a crystal and throws it back at them. Seeing his friends defeated, Blade rushes in with his sword to strike her. The Demon Lord questions Blade's intentions, as he had not unsheathed his sword before. She taunts him to fight seriously or face death. Using a wind spell, she hurls him against a barrier, warning him to take the fight seriously or perish. Blade acknowledges that he's still recovering, but refuses to give up. He finally decides to take the fight serious, but the Demon Lord easily stops his attacks with her bare hands. He steps back, and she uses a fire spell, urging him not to die too quickly. Blade tries to block the attack with his sword, but his blade is destroyed in the process. Ernest gets up and suggests using the demonic sword to fight the Demon Lord. Asmodeus is reluctant, but he follows Ernest's command as he has no other choice. The Demon Lord anticipates an amusing fight, but Blade is focused solely on finishing it quickly. Despite her mocking, he channels his power, ignoring Asmodeus's warning about his immense strength. Blade uses his full power against the Demon Lord, who blocks it with a barrier, thinking it would be too simple. However, she is taken aback when her spell begins to break apart. Blade eventually defeats her with his full power, ensuring nobody dies. After the battle, Blade collapses, and later he wakes up in the nurse's office, where the doctor embraces him and scolds him for worrying about her. The doctor explains that Blade briefly died, and if she hadn't arrived in time, he might not have woken up again. She reminds him of his promise not to make her cry, but he failed this time. Blade apologizes and asks about the others. The doctor reassures him that they are all safe, with Claire tending to them. He then inquires about Maria, and the doctor confirms that she is also alive. If you've been enjoying this content so far, don't forget to show your support by giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. It really helps keep me motivated to keep making these anime recaps. A day later, things seem to have returned to normal, but Maria is still stuck in her Demon Lord form. She greets Blade as the hero, but he tries to silence her, realizing she now has something to use against him in the future. Blade advises Maria to stop, but she explains that Maria is a separate personality from her. He asks the Demon Lord for her name, but she reveals she was never given one. Blade decides to consult the king, who reveals that he knew about Maria's identity all along. He explains that Maria's mother was a human, and her father is the former Demon Lord, whom Blade had defeated. Maria, the Demon Lord's daughter, adapted quickly to her new life, behaving like an ordinary girl. The nurse complains about Maria's behavior, as she just wants to wear cute clothes, but Maria flirts with the boys instead. The students give her a nickname, Mao, and she expresses her desire for a rematch against Blade someday. At night, Mao knocks on Blade's window while Ku is sleeping. She invites him on a date and carries him up in the air. She keeps calling him the great hero and mentions that Maria used to spend a lot of time gazing at the moon. Blade asks how old she is, and she explains that she became self-aware 5 years ago. Blade is confused because she doesn't seem like a 5-year-old, but she clarifies that magical beasts don't have conventional ages. She takes him to the rooftop, insisting that she doesn't want to be treated like a child. Blade is puzzled by her statement, and she playfully asks if he can't see that she's not just a child. However, Blade doesn't pick up on her hints. Mao admits feeling attached to Blade, but he doesn't notice her feelings. She reveals that she chose to stay at the school because of him. Blade assumed she was enjoying her school life, which she confirms, but she also mentions that magical beasts are drawn to strength. Mao admits her attachment to him, but is perplexed because she doesn't understand why, especially since she feels that he has become weaker in the past couple of days. Blade reveals that if he uses 15% of his power, he will die. Mao says he's not worthy of being killed by her now, but she won't leave the school until she gets the chance. She holds his hand and admits to having a theory that she might love him, but she is uncertain. Blushing, she asks if he wants to be her partner, but Blade is too young and innocent to understand the meaning. Mao also realizes she's just 5 years old, so the idea is impractical. They agree it would be better to fight in the testing ground until they are satisfied, but Mao refuses due to Blade's current condition and the restraining necklace. Blade inquires about Maria, and Mao explains that Maria's consciousness still exists within her, and prevents her from removing the necklace. Mao reveals Maria's past, filled with fear and bullying by humans, leading her to hide with her mother. Maria's mother always believed her husband, the former Demon Lord, would come back, but Maria never shared that belief. When Maria's mother died, she felt abandoned and blamed the Demon Lord for her suffering. Mao emerged as a way for Maria to escape the pain she endured. Mao believes Maria may never appear again, but appreciates Blade's connection to the demon side. A few days later, they study Mao's necklace and find that it's not a stealing item. Instead, Mao is being restricted by it. They learn the necklace contains a recorded message for Maria. Mao reveals she received it from her mother. Eliza, who is researching the necklace, explains that the recorded message could bring Maria back and potentially defeat the Demon Lord. Despite the risks, Mao decides to play the message because she cares about Maria. When the recording is activated, they see an image of the previous Demon Lord. Demon Lord begins the recorded message by apologizing for leaving Maria and her mother behind when he had to face the great hero. He didn't want them to be involved in a violent path. When he discovered Maria's mother was pregnant, he decided on a name for the child and asked her to tell the child he was dead. Mao finds Maria deep in her mind and urges her to stop hiding. Maria takes Mao's hand, and they listen to their father's message, where he expresses his eternal love for both Maria and her mother. This heartfelt message makes both Mao and Maria cry. Mao explains to the group that she and Maria are fighting within their mind to determine who will survive. Maria is on the verge of destroying Mao. Mao asks the group to call out Maria's name, and they do so. Maria then loses consciousness and falls to her knees, allowing Maria to gain control of her body. She asks Blade to duel her, and she transforms into Mao during the fight. It turns out that they have found a way to coexist because Maria wished for it. but their duel ends up being more of a strange interaction. Blade seems more interested in flirting with Mao, despite her being 5 years old. After a while, the group heads to town for enjoyment. However, their outing is cut short due to a carriage blocking their path. Wanting the carriage to be moved, Harness asks who owns it and learns it's owned by a centaur named Dion. As the centaur prepares to introduce herself, Blade appears to recognize her as Dion. Dion also recognizes Blade as the Great Hero, which remains a secret. Blade instructs her not to reveal it. Ernest questions Blade's acquaintance with Dion, noting her poor lying skills. Blade asks Dion about resolving the carriage blockage, and Q offers to help. Later, Blade asks about the carriage's destination. Unfortunately, it's headed to the king. Dion informs the king of a successful cargo delivery, and he commends her. He presents her with her next task, becoming a teacher at the academy. Back at the academy, Dion faces off against blocks of god iron, known for being indestructible. However, these blocks hadn't encountered Dion before. She easily smashes through them, even causing them to melt into a puddle. She considers this a good warm-up and gets ready to teach a class, though she hasn't introduced herself yet. Dion was a top general in the army, fighting alongside the Great Hero. This raises the question, how does Blade know her so well if she's as accomplished as she seems? Later, Blade bathes Ku while the girls clean around them. Jessica starts asking about Dion's history with Blade, and Dion struggles with lying. Jessica persists until Blade intervenes to prevent her from cracking. Ernest is upset that Blade entered the women's bathroom, but Jessica realizes that Blade's intentions aren't what she initially thought. To demonstrate, she flashes him. Dion begins talking about her first encounter with Blade. When he was 5 years old, he couldn't speak and behaved like a wild animal. He mistook her for a horse and even attempted to eat her. She managed to avoid being eaten and eventually trained herself to fight alongside the Great Hero after a few years. However, it's not readily apparent that she's describing Blade throughout her story. A few days later, Ernest and Blade are shopping when Ernest inquires about what gift they should get for Dion. Blade, who knows Dion well, suggests getting her cabbage, since she loves it. Ernest remains curious about Blade's connection with Dion, but her questioning is interrupted by a bird flying overhead. These are national birds and aren't known for randomly attacking people. Assuming everything is fine, they decide to disregard it. Unexpectedly, the bird suddenly swoops down, prompting Blade to push Ernest out of harm's way. The bird then targets a wagon. While Ernest is ready to intervene, Blade advises her to remain calm. The bird eventually flies away. Blade suspects the king's involvement in this incident. Ernest bursts into the king's chambers and demands an explanation for the bird's attack on the wagon. The incident stems from a man who stole the bird's egg. However, there's more to the story. The birds, new to parenthood, are making misguided decisions that could prevent the egg from hatching. As a result, the king intervenes to save the egg. He also sees this as a valuable training for the students and assigns Ernest the mission to rescue the egg. On the following day, they organize their strategy to ensure the safe hatching of the egg. The plan involves elevating the egg to a height that allows it to hatch without the parents' interference. While a team distracts the birds, their attempts to fend them off don't succeed. Yet, their objective isn't to defeat the birds, but to delay them. They secure the egg by fastening it to nearby buildings using a strong cable made of god iron. Unfortunately, the buildings aren't as sturdy, and when the bird attempts to carry away the egg and the buildings, several people lose their homes. Continuing to delay the birds, they encounter an issue when attempting to raise the egg. The pulley halts halfway. The team instructs Blade to retrieve the egg while they handle the bird. Blade begins ascending the wall towards the egg, but this proves difficult due to his reduced power at just 15%. Fortunately, help arrives from Dion, who joins him on the wall and helps. Working together, they manage to raise the egg. Following a final clash with the bird, the egg eventually hatches. Out of it comes 2 baby chicks, but since Blade is the first person that they see after they hatch, they imprint on him. He now has 2 more children. And that wraps up this episode. If you've enjoyed the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot to us.